Hello everyone and welcome. Mind, the cause of bondage and the key to liberation. Why so? All we have in life is awareness, matter, and mind. Awareness is the only one that is aware, that knows. So it is liberation itself. And the matter is insentient. It does not need liberation. And in the middle, mind. Mind is seemingly sentient. Awareness is sentient. Matter is not sentient. And the mind is seemingly sentient. So the mind says, I am a finite, separate self with consciousness and free will. That's why it gets into trouble. It's in samsara, in bondage. So the mind can, using its knowledge, get out of this bondage. Knowledge. So what is knowledge? Let's dig deeper into the term knowledge. Jnana is a Sanskrit word for knowledge. Jnana is of four kinds. Swajnana, swa means me, self-knowledge. Swajnana, prajnana, vijnana, and jnana. Jnana is a general word used for all knowledge. Its meaning depends on the context, but it is commonly used as the indirect, worldly, objective knowledge, jnana. So swajnana is also called direct, immediate, subjective, absolute, aparoksha jnana, swarupa jnana, atma jnana, chaitanya jnana, and brahma jnana. Direct knowledge is looking at awareness as awareness. It is immediate and direct. Direct knowledge cannot be forgotten because the object of knowledge is always present. It is not a memory. Direct knowledge is existential experience endowed with absolute knowledge. Direct knowledge is self-evident. It does not require any proof. Prajnana is a special knowledge of the absolute. Swajnana. Prajnana is direct, immediate knowledge known as I am. Prajnana is consciousness without objects, but is endowed with the potential of objects in a seed form. Pure awareness, however, has no objects even in their seed form. Since prajnana is at the intersection point of the absolute and the relative, it is effectively used as a meditation and a self-inquiry tool. Vijnana, wisdom, is the capacity to use mind with awareness. It's a special knowledge. Vi in Sanskrit means special. It's a special knowledge, knowledge of the subtle. So it is data plus awareness, data of the whole. Wisdom is an appropriate, fitting application of knowledge. Knowledge is knowing how to use a gun. Wisdom is knowing when to use it and when to keep it away. Knowledge understands that the traffic light has turned red. Wisdom applies the brakes. Knowledge memorizes 10 commandments. Wisdom obeys them. Wisdom means that you understand real as real, satya or awareness, and not real as not real, mithya, data, illusion. Jnana is also called indirect, mediate, relative, objective, worldly, paroksha jnana, and vritti jnana. Indirect knowledge is looking at awareness from the subtle body or mind. It is mediate and indirect. Indirect knowledge is knowledge of objects which are not always present and therefore can be forgotten. Indirect knowledge can mainly be obtained either by direct perception, which are senses, or by perception-based inference, which is intellectual or logical reasoning. Indirect knowledge can be either relative, means changing or transactional, or firm or non-contradicting. Relative indirect knowledge is information, data coming from the outside, theoretical, knowledge that works in a transactional world, data coming from the senses, where the senses are very limited and defective. That man is handsome, or the sun rises and sets, is relative indirect knowledge. Fire is hot, is firm and non-contradicting indirect knowledge, which is agreeable to all. Indirect knowledge is confined to the experiential or material field. Thus, we have those 4 types of knowledge: Svajnana, Prajnana, Vijnana, and Jnana. Indirect knowledge comes from without. Direct knowledge wells up within. Indirect knowledge is borrowed. Direct knowledge is original. Indirect knowledge gratifies ego. Direct knowledge, which is I am the limitless awareness, is realized when the ego is understood to be as awareness itself. And we need minds or intellects help to do that. Duality, dualism, bondage is mind's fault, mind's ignorance. Liberation is mind's knowledge, which can destroy ignorance. Indirect or relative knowledge is falsehood because it is ever changing, borrowed. However, falsehood can be neutralized by another falsehood. Remember, if any imaginary thorn has pricked your foot, don't try to remove it with the help of a real thorn. It would be dangerous. First of all, the imaginary one will never be removed, and furthermore, the real one will hurt your foot. A false thorn has to be pulled out with the help of a false thorn. A dream thirst can only be quenched with a dream water. The only way a plane of reality can be transcended into a higher plane is by losing its identity to that higher plane. A character in a movie, for example, can search all over the movie world but will never find the screen because the screen never appears as an object in the movie. Mind can only know objects. Thus, mind has no access to awareness. Mind has to lose all of its limitations and dissolve into awareness. Therefore, use knowledge or thought to go beyond knowledge or thought. Look at sex. Sex has to be used to transcend sex. Celibacy is a transformed state of sex. If sex is the coal, celibacy is the diamond. The diamond does not have any enmity with the coal. It is only a transformation of the coal. It is a journey of the coal into a new dimension. Celibacy is not in opposition to sex. It is a transformation of sex. One who is inimical to sex can never attain to celibacy. When sex becomes suppressed, it becomes ugly, diseased, neurotic. It becomes perverted. One has to go through the sex consciously to attain to celibacy. One has to use sex as an act of meditation. And the same thing is true in case of relative knowledge. Knowing or awareness or going beyond the knowledge seems to be a difficult process because it's a catch-22 process. The awareness has to be apparently set free from the body-mind buddhi or body-mind intellect, BMB, using the BMB itself. Awareness is the creator and the BMB is the creation. Like a spider gets caught in its own web, the awareness gets caged in its own BMB. Awareness had to apparently forget itself in order to experience the world. And when that happens, the BMB has to work hard to set the awareness free. To remember, recognize itself as the awareness. Why? BMB has to work hard because we ourselves are part of the dream world and we firmly believe it to be real. The reason for this is that while dreaming, we do not experience ourselves as the one who has projected the dream, but as one of the people in the dream world that we have projected. So, since we experience ourselves as one of the projected phenomena, we seem to be a creature rather than the creator. As a creator, we projected the dream world, but as a creature, we are just one among the projections. Our power of imagination is so intense and vivid that whenever we imagine something, we become ensnared in our own imagination. Our night dream is a clear proof of this. Accumulation of knowledge is needed for all people. It's natural. For a baby, everything is an undifferentiated or homogeneous mass of experience. He is not separate from the whole. He is in a pre-egoic state. As he gets older, he develops his mind, ego. He slowly starts separating himself from the whole. He now has the concept of me and the other. And the me is not the same as the other. He identifies himself as the body-mind and separates himself out from the world. And the moment this knowledge comes, division enters. Baby begins to divide between what is mine and what is not mine, what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong. This is called neti process, not this, which is natural. This natural process is part of evolution, happens unconsciously, and takes the baby to a stage where he identifies himself with his body and then leaves him there around the age of 7. The baby is now a conscious individual. He now has the responsibility to progress further on his own. This is egoic state. Unfortunately, most people stay in this state throughout their lives. Self-inquiry is the continuation of this neti-neti process. Neti-neti means not this, not this. Self-inquiry is the continuation of this neti-neti process of I being not the same as perceptions, sensations, thoughts, feelings, etc. And then start separating himself out from the body-mind knowledge. Self-inquiry is to resolve the question whether you are complete or incomplete. Self-inquiry is to resolve the question whether you are complete or incomplete. You start removing all the identifications one by one from you until you come to a point where you cannot remove anymore. This elimination of false identification is done knowingly, deliberately, consciously. Awareness then recognizes itself as the infinite awareness, but was never a finite ego. This neti-neti technique is part of Advaita Vedanta teaching and is well documented. It is not the focus of this talk. This is now a post-egoic state or an enlightened state. You are a sage. You are back full circle to the similar level of experience as a baby, but with a tremendous difference. You are now conscious of the oneness. Divisions disappear. A baby's consciousness merges or gets lost in experience of diversity, resulting in innocence but disorder. Whereas a sage's experience merges or gets enlightened in consciousness of one, resulting in peace and order. Personal doership, thinking mind or unconscious mind, has completely dissolved in a sage. A sage still has an impersonal ego with a working mind or a being mind to transact in the world. So, knowing ourselves is the absence of not knowing ourselves as something. Use mind to clean up the mind. All the layers of conditioning that we have accumulated over the lifetimes that causes you to think that you are a separate self or ego, but not awareness. Mind is the only instrument you have got. When the tongue says, I am happy, it does not mean that the tongue is happy. It is the mind that is happy. Similarly, a thought can be used to point to awareness, which is beyond thought. A limited thought can never take you to the unlimited awareness. However, an illusory limited thought that I am a separate self, I am an ego, can only be removed by another illusory limited thought to reveal awareness, which you already are. To quote Amrita Bindu Upanishad, the mind is verily the cause of bondage as well as liberation. Engrossed in objects of sense, it leads to bondage. Free from attachment to objects, the same mind leads to liberation. Knowledge, thought is a necessary evil. Unknowing is necessary for knowing. Mind is a double-edged sword. Use mind, knowledge, to become free of the mind. Use mind or knowledge to become free of the mind. And by the way, why did mind get into this trouble or bondage? Well, it didn't. It thinks it did. Thank you.